Hi everyone, this is Ashley with CT Marina Digitals. I'm going to do a tutorial to show you how to use my Horizon digital backdrop overlays in Photoshop. I created these for a bit of a pop for sunset sessions, whether it's at the beach or in a field. Anywhere these can add a little bit more to the sky. If it was a little bit too dark when you were taking the images, or the sky was a little bit blown out. You can add these overlays best on a little bit of a darker sky. You might have to darken the image a little bit to use the overlay to be more visible if you blew out the sky. But they best work on photos that are a little bit underexposed. So I have a couple images open that I'm going to use. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to apply them. So I have open one of them already in Photoshop. So I could just select all, edit and copy, and edit and paste into my image. I'm going to zoom out because my image I'm using is web sized and the overlays are much larger, so I have to resize that real quick. Okay, and then I'm going to change my blending mode to screen. And then I'm going to want to resize this and move to where my horizon line would be. And I'm not going to use the whole thing, so I'm not going to worry too much about the water reflection here because I'm not going to have that part show actually. And then I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit more so it covers there. Okay, so now I obviously want it to be behind my subject, so I'm going to come down to my background layer. I'm going to go to my selection tool, quick selection tool, and select subject. And then I'm going to duplicate that layer, create a layer mask, and then I'm going to drag my overlay in between those layers. So now it is behind my subject. I am going to add a curves layer to this image to brighten the whole image, which I would do that in editing before I added the overlay. But as you can see, the brighter the image gets, the harder it is to see that overlay, which obviously if there's a blown out sky, that's usually during the day anyways, not so much during sunset sessions. So you're going to have that darkness in that sky anyways. But yeah, I wanted to add a little bit more there first. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a layer mask on my overlay here. And I'm going to grab a soft black brush at 100% opacity, and I'm just going to brush off up until about there for this one. And then I'm going to come up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm just going to add a little bit of blur to blend that in just a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to use a couple different ones in this one. So this one brightened up that horizon a little bit. I like how the flare kind of comes in here and I can see a little bit of the sun. So now I'm going to go up to Filter File, and in place Embedded. And that now I have a bunch of different ones in here to pick from. Some of them have water reflections, some of them are blurred, some of them have rainbows. There's a good selection to choose from. So now I want to add, I think I want to add a little bit of a rainbow one. Change the blending mode to screen again. I'm going to put this about right here. And now if you want to as well, you can play around with the different blending modes and then add blur if you want kind of a different look. You can go through those, but they're mostly going to work best on screen. And now I'm going to add some blur to that one as well. Okay. And now I'm not liking how this one looks. So the good thing about Place Embedded and having these smart objects is I'm going to right click and I go to Replace Contents and I'm going to pick a different one. Because I didn't like how that one looked. Let's try this one. Add a little bit more to the sky too. I'm going to get this right where the sun was in the last one. Make sure my horizon line is straight there. We definitely want that. Okay, and now it already has that blur added. If you didn't want that blur, if you're kind of swapping them out, you would just create another one instead of just replacing the contents. But I'm going to create a layer mask on that one as well. And then use probably about around 40%, and I'm going to brush off some of that off of the trees from that overlay. So I don't want that one about right here, but that added a little bit up here, added some over here, and added that sun. So if I merge these now, change the blending mode back to screen, so you can see it added that cast to the sky and that sun in the background. Okay, I'm going to go over to my next one. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to select subject or anything for this one because there's just a boat. So I'm going to go up to File and Place Embedded. And I want a water reflection for this one. So I'm going to click this one. This one seems to have a lot of water reflection here. And this is one of these blurred casted ones, which is nice. Okay, and I'm going to go up to Filter and Blur, Gaussian Blur. Again, I'm not going to add a ton of blur. Okay, and then I'm going to create a layer mask. I'm going to use a bigger brush this time. And I'll use about 50%. I'm going to brush off a little bit at a time because I obviously don't want it on the boat or all the way down there. So I'm just going to brush it off until it no longer casts too much onto the boat. As you can see, that one made a huge difference for this image. If you're needing to adjust where it goes, you can still adjust after. Oh, Photoshop is being... I'm going to disable my smart filter for a second. Sometimes when you do that, it makes it so it's not as slow. Okay, I'm going to turn that. There we go, back on. And then I'm going to brush this off on my land here too. I would actually, if I was the photographer, which, and I was going to print this image, I would get rid of all these trees here so it was just the boat in the background. But if you don't want to and you have a horizon line with trees and stuff, you just have to paint that. It's just a little bit extra work because you have to paint that horizon on and off. But what I would do, I'm just going to hide this for a second. I'll come down here. And let's see how generative fill does for this one. Kind of get rid of that line there. Generative fill usually works good for this stuff. Any other time it adds all kind of weird stuff to images, especially when there's people in it. But it does pretty good for this kind of stuff. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to turn that back on. And then I'm going to move. Oops. Oh, so if you do generative fill, I'm gonna select that, hold down Control or Command on your keyboard and select both and then merge layers. Just so that's one image again now. Now I'm gonna move my right there. There we go. Because you want it reflected onto the water right after the sky, kind of in between. There we go. Perfect. That looks a lot better without all the distractions in the water in the background. Okay, so we can hide this one for a second. Let's add a different one. Let's just show you a couple of different ones that there are. This one's kind of got a cool ray to it. Actually, I feel like this is upside down. I'm going to flip it, which you can do. Hide that real quick. Okay. Add some blur. That's pretty cool. I would lower the opacity on that one just a little bit. Now you can add as many adjustments as you want. So if I wanted to bring down the brightness just a little bit on it, I could go up to my adjustments, brightness and contrast, create a clipping mask so it was only applying to my overlay there, and I could bring down the brightness quite a bit on that. Actually, it was pretty bright before. And then you could also add like different colors to it if you wanted kind of a different effect. You can press back down here on your overlay, and you won't have to keep creating a layer or a clipping mask if you do it in between your layer and a clipping mask that you already did. So I'm going to add a hue saturation, and there's already that clipping mask there for me. And then you can slide this if you want to go for a different effect on it. It would be more of an effect on your image than looking realistic at that point, but you could do that as well. I don't like that one as much for this image. Oh, I have to flip it back because I flipped the other one. I forgot. I was like, why is it upside down? This is a really pretty one. Okay, so what you have to keep in mind for these as well, if I wanted to apply this one, since it has the sun in it, you do not want to put it over here because the sun is over here in this image. I'm going to undo my dimensions here, unclick this up top so I can drag this without it making the whole overlay bigger or smaller, because this one actually looks really pretty with this one, just to add something subtle. Yeah, that's really pretty. And that added a lot. It added quite a bit without adding too much at all, actually. I would probably bring down the brightness on that one just a little bit. There we go. Very pretty. But that's it. Just with, it's probably a little bit easier to use for landscape images like this, but with the subject in focus, all you have to do is create that layer mask there to be able to put it behind them. Don't forget to add your blur. Even just the tiniest bit of blur is going to help it blend into your photo a lot more than just copy paste and then leaving it without any edit done to it. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me a message. If you are wanting more free tutorials like this one, please be sure to subscribe so you're notified when I add new videos.